So Terry Real spoke about something really interesting. He spoke about relational empowerment versus personal empowerment. And as I was listening to him and he began to really expand on this notion of personal empowerment, I was able to see the conditions by which we have created our culture today. And personal empowerment looks a little like this. I was weak, now I'm strong, fuck you. And I get that, and that's a transition point. And I think sometimes we need to experience that within ourselves before we move on to something that I feel is more mature, more connected, more grounded, and that is relational empowerment, which is I was weak, I'm now strong and empowered. How do we grow together? How do we create a world together, whether that's a micro world in your community or family, or whether that's something bigger? How do we do that together whilst I still set healthy boundaries and clarity around who I am and the power that I've gained again? And Terry Real goes to an example of personal empowerment being that of maybe the 70s movement, the gender equality 70s movement, where women's rights was really coming into power. And there'd been layers and levels of that throughout probably the last 100 and something years, 120 years, 130 years. That movement, what he described was, we have been repressed for so long and we are hurting and fuck you. And I think to myself, well, that slingshot effect is something that is natural. It happens. When we've been, and I'm going to be really honest here, the privilege that I have is I've never experienced that level of collective oppression. I've experienced individual oppression in my life, in my family dynamics, in my social settings. Absolutely, I've felt oppressed in very many different ways, but not to that extent. And it's sad, and I get the personal empowerment. And Terry Real goes on to express that one of his missions here on earth is to help people move into relational empowerment, is to get their power back and then work together as a collective, whether it's in the area of gender, of age, socioeconomic status, culture, ethnicity, skin color, and so forth. And the times that we're in now, we're really having to make a choice about how we deal with what we're experiencing. And looking at it through a lens of personal empowerment or choosing relational empowerment, I don't even know if it's an easy choice. I think maybe we have to go through a process of personal empowerment, which is I was weak, or I was perceived that I was weak, or my rights, myself, my power was taken from me, or I lost my power, I gave it away, or all of the above, a combination of all. And now it's time for me to be strong. Fuck you who oppressed me, whether it's systemic, whether it's individual, whether it's a group, whether it's conscious or unconscious. I wonder if that's a natural progression of the human being and the human collective to then move into a relational empowerment, because we see that the pendulum swinging in extremes is just not healthy. And the question that I have is, can we do that in the most efficient and effective way? If that's a truth, if we have to move through personal empowerment as a collective, can we do that in a way that helps us evolve into relational empowerment at a deeper level? I've been seeing this for a number of years now, particularly in the gender movement. I've been seeing women stand up in their power, the feminine, female, stand in their power and say, we forgive you. We forgive the oppressive male. We forgive elements of the masculine being in that shadow, that control, that subjugation, that judgment, that autocracy, that oppression. We forgive you. How do we move forward together as a collective? And my heart has been burst open with witnessing this and having to take ownership of the collective energetic of the masculine, how we've behaved and how we've been behaving for so many years, thousands of years, oppressive and divisive. So I just ask you to give this some thought, and it's tough at a time of great intensity. It's really challenging for us. and just give it some thought, give it some energy, some attention, some feeling. Can you go into yourself and ask, do I really want to choose hate? Martin Luther King and many other great leaders, Mahatma Gandhi as well, and so many. Can we meet hate and violence and bigotry with hate and violence and bigotry? Can we meet gendered or racial oppression with more gendered and racial oppression? And I also get that it's a transition. And then if it is, if it has to be, can we transition in the most efficient way? Can we do our inner work, our shadow work to shift all that pain and suffering? Not only as quickly as possible, but as cleanly as possible, to come into greater unity consciousness, or levels of it at least. Love wins. It always will. Power and blessings, and I'll see you soon.